When you think of the driest place on Earth, your mind probably jumps to somewhere hot. Maybe the Sahara, maybe Death Valley, maybe that spot in your backyard where grass refuses to grow no matter how much you beg it. But here's the twist. The driest place on Earth is actually covered in ice, and snow, and penguins. Welcome to Antarctica, the most deceptive desert on the planet. Yes, you heard that right. Antarctica is a desert, a huge one. In fact, it's the largest desert on Earth, and it earns that title not because of sand dunes or scorching heat, but because of one simple metric, precipitation. Deserts are defined not by temperature, but by how little water they get each year. And when it comes to stinginess with moisture, Antarctica reigns supreme. So, how dry are we talking? Let's look at the numbers. The inner parts of Antarctica receive less than 2 inches of precipitation per year. That's less than the Sahara, which can get 3 inches or more. Some areas of Antarctica, like the McMurdo Dry Valleys, haven't seen rain in millennia. These valleys are so dry and barren that NASA uses them as a stand-in for Mars. And yet, when you look at Antarctica from space, it's gleaming white. Snow and ice seem to stretch forever. How does that work? How can a place that looks like a frozen ocean be drier than a desert? The answer lies in the cold. Cold air holds less moisture than warm air. In fact, at freezing temperatures, the atmosphere can barely hold any water vapor at all. That means that in Antarctica, even when storms do roll through, they don't have much water to work with. You might get some snowflakes, but it's usually dry, powdery stuff, and very little of it. And because temperatures are almost always well below freezing, whatever snow does fall doesn't melt. It just sticks around for thousands of years. That's why Antarctica is covered in ice, even though hardly any fresh snow falls each year. It's like if you lived in a town where it only snowed once every 10 years, but the snow never melted. Eventually, you'd still get buried in it. But wait, what about the coastline? The coastal regions of Antarctica are wetter than the interior. They can get up to 8 inches of precipitation per year, still desert levels, but comparatively wetter, and the snow there is a bit heavier. Still, it's nothing compared to what we consider normal weather in temperate zones. By contrast, Miami gets over 60 inches of rain per year. Even London, which everyone loves to complain about, gets around 23 inches. Antarctica is on a whole different level of dryness. It's just hidden under a glacial disguise. So, why doesn't it feel like a desert? Because our brains are wired to associate deserts with heat, not with precipitation. We think sand, not snow. But in science, a desert is a region that receives less than 10 inches of precipitation per year, regardless of whether it's hot or cold. Antarctica checks that box. In fact, it breaks the box, stomps on it, and buries it under permafrost. And there's more. The wind in Antarctica is brutal. Katabatic winds, cold, dense air that rushes downhill, can reach over 200 miles per hour in some areas. These winds scour the surface and evaporate moisture so quickly that even the little snow that does fall can sublimate straight into vapor without ever melting. That's right, it vanishes. Let's talk about one of the strangest places on the planet, the McMurdo Dry Valleys. Picture towering mountains, cracked ground, and not a snowflake in sight. This area receives virtually no precipitation, has permanent ice-free ground, and endures some of the harshest winds on Earth. It's so inhospitable that no vegetation can survive. Even bacteria struggle. NASA loves this place because if microbes can survive here, they might survive on Mars. In fact, scientists run field tests in the dry valleys before trying them on space missions. It's the ultimate trial run for life in space. So yeah, Antarctica isn't just dry. Parts of it are alien-level dry. Ice, maybe? Ironically, despite its dryness, Antarctica holds about 60 to 70% of the world's fresh water, locked away in its massive ice sheets. If that ice were to melt completely, don't worry. It's not happening overnight. Global sea levels would rise by over 200 feet. Entire coastal cities would vanish. Florida, gone. Bangladesh, submerged. New York, hope you like boats. And yet, Antarctica remains dry because that water is frozen solid. It's a place of extremes, dry as the moon, cold as deep space, and weirdly, one of Earth's most important water vaults. Can anything live in such a dry place? Surprisingly, yes. Some life forms are absolute badasses. Beneath the ice, in isolated lakes like Lake Vostok, microbial life has been found surviving in total darkness, high pressure, and low oxygen. In the dry valleys, a few resilient lichens and algae cling to rocks, making do with almost no moisture. These are some of the hardiest organisms on the planet, and they offer clues to how life might exist on other icy worlds, like Europa or Enceladus. Even humans have figured out how to live here, kind of. The McMurdo Station, the largest research base in Antarctica, houses scientists year-round. They study everything from climate change to penguin behavior, and they do it in a place where the nearest grocery store is a multi-day plane ride away, and stepping outside in winter means instant frostbite, the desert that breaks the mold. Let's be honest, Antarctica is not what people picture picture when they hear the word desert. There are no sand dunes, no camels, no mirages shimmering in the heat. Instead, there's ice and wind and silence. The kind of silence that hums in your ears. The kind that makes you feel like you've stepped off the planet. That's what makes it so important. Antarctica challenges our assumptions. It proves that nature does not care about our definitions. And it reminds us that the planet is weirder and more wonderful than we give it credit for. Why this matters? You might think Antarctica is just a frozen wasteland, but it's actually central to understanding our planet, and maybe others too. Climate change. The ice sheets here are melting faster than ever. That's a big deal. Planetary science. Studying extreme dryness helps scientists understand Mars, Titan, and beyond. Water resources. Antarctica holds the key to Earth's long-term water future, and most importantly, it teaches us that appearances can be deceiving. Dry doesn't always look like dust. Sometimes it looks like snow. Antarctica, the human imagination's blind spot. The fact that we've called this place a wasteland for so long is ironic, not just because it's full of scientific potential, but because it's full of surprises. It flips our assumptions inside out. Where we expect endless snowstorms, there's quiet stillness. Where we expect abundant moisture, there's near-complete dryness. And where we expect lifelessness, we find tiny, resilient, astonishing sparks of life. In a way, Antarctica is a mirror for how little we know about our own planet. And it's a reminder that the world's greatest mysteries don't always lie out in the stars. Sometimes they're frozen at the bottom of the Earth. So next time someone tells you deserts are all sand and heat, hit them with this icy fact. The biggest, driest desert on Earth is white, freezing, and home to more penguins than cacti. Antarctica may not fit your mental image of a desert, but by every scientific measure, it's the king of dryness. And that's what makes it so cool. Literally, even more literally, it might be the best planet-like testing ground we have without leaving Earth. It teaches us resilience. It challenges how we perceive ecosystems, and it shows that dryness and isolation are not signs of lifelessness. They're the backdrop to some of the most fascinating adaptations in nature. The next time you sip a glass of water, think about where fresh water comes from, and realize that most of it is frozen at the bottom of the planet, in a place we barely understand. Antarctica may be dry, but it's overflowing with reasons to care. The Antarctic time capsule. In fact, the ice itself is like a library of Earth's history. Deep ice cores pulled from Antarctica contain tiny air bubbles trapped for hundreds of thousands of years. These bubbles tell us what the atmosphere was like during the Ice Age, what kind of pollen drifted through the skies, and how levels of carbon dioxide have changed over millennia. It's not just a frozen desert, it's a time machine, and scientists are still learning how to read it. Every new layer they drill reveals another page in the story of our climate, our oceans, even our mass extinctions. In a world obsessed with what's next, Antarctica holds the answers to what came before, and sometimes that's the key to predicting what comes next. Antarctica and the sound of solitude. There's one more thing that makes Antarctica stand apart, not just from deserts, but from everywhere else on Earth. It's silence. True, soul-deep silence. No cars, no planes overhead, no buzzing of streetlights, just wind, snow, and the occasional crack of distant ice. Explorers who spend months there often say it changes them. The absence of sound becomes a kind of presence, a reminder of how noisy our everyday lives are, and how powerful stillness can be. In the silence, you start to notice the small things, the sparkle of frost in a sunbeam, the slow dance of a drifting snowflake, the eerie beauty of light that bounces off endless white. In a world that constantly rushes, Antarctica whispers, and sometimes a whisper says more than a shout.